Hello, my name is Jay Pilar. I'm current president of the Filipino American National Historical Society, Sacramento Delta Chapter. I'm standing in front of the American Legion Post 604 on Gerber Road in Sacramento. This historic building was originally built by local Filipino farmers and their association. Soon after World War II, they granted the building over to the local American Legion Post 604. In the 1920s through 30s, the number of Filipinos in the United States increased from less than 5,000 at the turn of the century to over 30,000 on the West Coast alone. This is due to the fact that American companies are going to the Philippines to recruit workers to work in Hawaii and California to help create the greatest ag industry area in the world. It is estimated that 93% of those immigrating for the Philippines were males. They are drawn by the spirit of adventure, ability to earn money to send home, and hopes of a higher education. But they were met with low-paying jobs, racial violence, and anti-miscegenation laws, which forbade them from marrying outside their ethnic race. Since the Philippines was a U.S. territory, they were also prevented from owning private property like real estate. With the low numbers of women immigrating, many Filipinos were unable to marry and raise families that would help care for them in their later years. To address a growing need for an aging workforce, a housing project was initiated by Larry Itliong and championed by Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers Organizing Committee. Through labor contracts and donations, funding was obtained for a retirement home for the aging and often destitute Filipino farm worker. In April of 1973, construction began on Agbayani Village, a complex that would contain 57 housing units. The complex was named after Paulo Agbayani, a Filipino farm worker who had died on the picket line in 1967 in the midst of the 5-year-long Delano grape strike. To help in the construction, over 1,000 volunteers gave their time and expertise. Many were students, professionals, and community grassroots supporters. In 1974, 57 retired farm workers became the first residents of Agbayani Village. In 2014, Agbayani Village celebrated its 40th anniversary. Members of Kayamangi, a Filipino student organization from CSU Sacramento, traveled to Delano several times during the winter and spring of 1974 to volunteer with the construction. This is their story when they joined other volunteers in Delano, California. Enjoy this story of Filipino-American history and the early Phil-Am students who became involved in their community.
I'm Lisa Cabot Clavicilia, and I was one of the first instructors of the Filipino language at ethnic studies at the California State University in Sacramento. That's where I met all the Filipinos, and the group that got started at Sac State called Kayamangi, which in Filipino means brown. The tasks that were given to me during the construction were quite interesting, especially because I'm a girl. They had us doing insulation, some electrical, but I think they found out I wasn't good at that. So they sent me to the rooftop, and I did the tiles, laying of the tiles on top of the roof. So we carried the tiles up on the roof, and then we laid the tiles, and we were given instructions, maybe 5-minute instructions on how to do all the laying of the tiles, and I hope we did good. But I found out later on that maybe we didn't quite do the right way of installing it. Being part of the Agbayani Village volunteer group to do construction was very enriching. It taught me a lot of things. First, it reminded me that people, although some of them may have been very well educated in the Philippines, they're willing to come here and sacrifice for their families and do things that they probably normally wouldn't do in the Philippines. It also brought back some very good memories of the strength of Filipinos. I'm sorry, can you stop that? I don't know why I'm tearing up. Okay, hold on. It also brought up some memories of Filipinos who are very strong-willed, who came here. They came here to get a better life for their families in the Philippines. They also came here to work hard and endure a lot of the discrimination that was going on at that time. But it made me a stronger person to look at the challenges that were coming to me when I was young 50 years ago that I would be experiencing, that I know if these people can do it, I can do it too. I'm sorry, Manuel, I gotta stop there.
No, it's good, Lisa.
It meant a lot to me that we brought a little happiness to them and also gave them some hope that they will have a nice place to stay when they retire and that they would be cared for in some way or another, because a lot of them don't have wives. They're not allowed to get married. The little thing that I may have done, I hope it brought a lot of happiness.
Hello, my name is Dick Mazan. Well, legally it's Junicio, but somebody changed it to Dick Mazan when I came here to the U.S. I am the current president of the Filipino community of Sacramento vicinity for 2019 up to 2021. What we've been trying to do is to build a community center over there. This is almost 1.8 acres of land that was purchased in the early 70s by the President Dolores Pizarro at the time. So, you know, it's almost been, what, 50 years? Yes, I went to school at Sacramento State University, got my BA in social welfare, and then I got a master's degree in social work. After that, you know, we began to develop the organization Kayamangi. You know, being involved with Kayamangi really opened up the doors for me and understanding where I fit in this world. Because, you know, we were all going through like an identity crisis kind of thing where, who am I? Well, what makes me Filipino? And I think the big issue at the time was that this Filipino-born, American-born weren't getting along. So we formed this organization so we can work together. That opened up to other things, like we started going to the Delta, visiting the Manongs, and what that did is it began to understand, you know, the plight of the Filipino farm workers, you know, so that kind of spinned off to the, you know, to where what was their, you know, role in the farm workers movement. And, you know, I don't know if everybody knows that, but, you know, we can get into that at a time, but they played a major role in developing the union and the movement, you know, for better wages, for better working conditions. And the Kayamangi actually opened that door for us, and, you know, where we began to look at the, you know, the development of the Agbayani Village. And Agbayani Village really is a symbol of the struggle of the Filipino farm workers, what happened, what they had to do, and some of the things that were gained through that, you know, and they developed a union for farm workers, which gave them a lot of leeway in what they can do, and you know, linked up to the other unions at the time. And then I opened up all the other things that we did. I think at the time, because of the identity movement, we were trying to figure out what makes us Filipinos. And, you know, so we started doing like Filipino dancing, songs, started learning that. And then at Sac State, we figured out that, oh, what we need is a Filipino history in this. So we fought for that. We got a class that taught Filipino history. I think at the beginning was by Vince Reyes with Maxi Vilones. And then the second class we also fought for was for a Tagalog class. I think our first teacher was, oh shoot, I can't remember. Lisa, yeah. So that was interesting because we were able to go through the whole bit. You know, you got a committee, you got an interviewing committee, and they got to interview people who wanted to teach either class, and we would make the decision who we hire. And so we pretty much had When you talk about empowerment, that really made us stronger as a organization, because we weren't just asking for it, we were actually doing it and making it happen.
It was very enriching that these men are willing to do something for their community. And if you look at it, they actually laid the groundwork for a lot of us today, for a lot of the people that were coming in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, from the Philippines or from Mexico. The farmers laid the groundwork. I mean, it was Itlong who worked very closely with Cesar Chavez. It was Carlos Bulusan who wrote something about what actually happened to him when he came to the United States, and he never gave up. And as of the Filipino student organization, Kayamangi, that was very exciting too. There were a lot of different ideas coming in during that time because of the problems that we were having in the Philippines. And some students here in America were trying to go against whatever, I can't think of the word. What is the word I'm thinking?
Martial law.
The martial law. Yeah, martial law was on in the Philippines at that time. And so there were different ideas of what is right, what is wrong, what can be done, what can't be done. But it was interesting to note that regardless of the differences in opinion, we all still came together to work together at the Agbayani Village. It was coming together, working together, and not having feuds and arguments and disagreements, but rather cooperating, doing something for our elder Filipinos and Mexicans, doing something for a common good. So joining Kayamangi was like coming home. It was like coming back to family. It was learning differences, but cooperating and working together. So it was a good time.
First of all, let me say that I am truly honored and humbled that you asked me to participate in this project to capture the memories, feelings, and experience of being a part of building Agbayani Village. Before I began this interview, I watched the beautiful video you and Chris created to capture the Agbayani Village experience when we were part of Kayamangi at Sacramento State. It sure brought a flood of memories, feelings, and thoughts on so many different levels. Do I try to remember what it was like from the naive viewpoint of an early 20 something? Or do I try to weave the threads of the years gone past, the experiences and knowledge gained over so many years? Not sure yet. To answer your first question, my task was to secure the tiles on the roof. When you are young and don't know any better, fear of heights or lack of expertise never crossed my mind. I remember sitting on the roof, inching our way as we nailed each tile in neat rows. Now, when I look at pictures of the completed building, I feel a sense of pride that I had a small role in creating not only a retirement home for the Monongs, but also a symbol of a time gone past, lives lived, dreams deferred, as well as an homage of gratitude and honor to the Monongs who came before us. It also serves as a tribute to my dad and all the fathers. My dad was only 16 years old when he came to America. His mother, Lucia, urged him to leave the island of Limasawa to seek a better life. Armed with some adobo and rice that his mom lovingly packed for him, he boarded a ship to meet his older brother in California. I try to imagine what it must have been like for someone so young to go to a strange country, leave everything you know and love, and put his trust in the belief that things would work out somehow. My dad worked hard to make a life for us, having endured the many untold hardships that other Filipino young men experienced. As you were talking, a flood of memories ran through my mind, though it was almost 50 years ago. Most of us rarely think that the life choices we make would somehow be a small part of history. As I look back at that time, what stands out to me the most were the Monongs and how joyously happy they were that we would come to help build their new home and spend some time with them. For that period, it seemed that we became the sons and daughters they never had. We brought back memories of family back home and shared laughter, food, and stories. Watching the video, you could see the joy and quiet happiness in their faces. I wonder now how it felt for them to see us. How much did we bring back memories of home and families left? How much did they have to endure to make a life here in the United States? What measure of happiness and contentment did they attain? I don't have answers to these questions, but I do remember the feeling of sharing that special time. How we all came together to build something that would be a dedication and home to the Monongs who sacrificed so much. Looking back at that time reminds me of my own awakening of identity, history, and culture, and how we had to demand and actively seek out our own stories and our own experiences. For at that time, we could not find ourselves in the textbooks of college courses. I came to be at Agbayani Village as a result of a group of Filipino American students who came together to form the student group Kayamangi and demanded of the administration at Sacramento State that a Filipino American experience course be taught. I found myself co-teaching that course along with Vincent Reyes. When I came to college, I didn't quite understand the concept of being otherized. It was through the teaching of the course and sharing our experiences that I began to form a knowledge base that would serve me as I learned of my history, culture, and values. For me, it was an eye-opening, liberating, and meaning-making experience. That experience formed the foundation of my life's journey as an educator who sought opportunities for students to gain an understanding of their own personal development and a sense of their own personal power and potential. Inspired by the words of Margaret J. Wheatley, I became a seeker, evoker, and provocateur of potential.
Historically, this is the thing that, we were part of something that happened in history that never It never occurred to us that we were part of a history, because we were just there to volunteer, to help, to do something for the community, to do something for the farm workers. But looking back 50 years now, it was something wonderful that happened 50 some years ago, that we actually have a facility for elderly Filipinos to go after their retirement. So to me, that is historical. And you may never read it in the history books, but it did happen.
But I think the significance of the Agbayani Village, and I don't think it's been, consciously put in our community that was a time of our history where, we can pinpoint the struggle of Filipinos, for better working conditions and better wages, where, they used to work out in the fields. They didn't even have toilets. They didn't have water. They had to ask for that. They had to fight for it. And, understanding that, we can see that what the struggles they've gone through, really put the community forward. This is the beginning of, a struggle that started back in 1920s, and the struggle was not until 1965 where they went on strike. So that's about 45 years of struggle for better wages, better conditions. So it should be an icon in our community as part of our, history. That's why I'm glad Manuel is doing this, because, I don't think if you take a survey right now, I don't think you would get more than 10% of Filipinos that knows what Agbayani is all about, what took place, and that is part of their history that they should be proud of. So that's the big significance, and I think this might be the beginning of something that we want to share with the whole community, because they need to know that, we were part of a historical movement back starting from 1920s all the way to 1965 when they went on strike.
In answering your last question, what do you feel is the historical significance of Agbayani Village? I noticed you asked me how I feel about it. I think in using the word feel, it summarizes what that experience was for a lot of us. Often, we read about history. It's about a date, time, place, and event that happened. We often read about the dates, places, events with dispassion, never really acknowledging that those experiences were lived experiences with real people. Agbayani Village, to me, is a symbol of our lived experiences through the years of how we came to America, how we were treated as a people, and how yet the struggle to realize our potential is still evident. Agbayani Village is a powerful tribute to those young men who came with great hopes and dreams and came to accept the reality that was theirs. I feel extremely proud that I was given a chance to honor our manongs and the legacy of their lives. Thanks, Manuel, for letting me go down memory lane. It has brought up a lot of feelings, thoughts, and remembrances of our journey here in America. Most of all, it reminds me of what we can accomplish through a shared vision and a shared endeavor.
We visited the village when the rooster echoed to the sun, as melodies of thought and the sweat of 1,000 blades of grass colored the earth. We visited the village in the valley where life to the Manungs began anew, and a herd of tamarau came to life, and will always remember. We visited the village among the vines, where dreams of a generation rekindled, and the spirit of a new generation rained down from the rooftops. We long ago visited the village where despair lost its luster, and their footsteps became ours. With my father in my heart, I visited the village that is called Agbayani, and the village has remained.
Hi, my name is Vangina Palamenesis. When Manuel asked me if I wanted to add a videotape introduction to my segment of the interview, I thought about it for a minute, and I questioned, what would I say? And then I looked at all the images of our younger selves. The question came up, what would I say to that early 20-something version of me? What would I tell her now? After thinking about it for a minute, I thought, you were committed in your struggle to find your voice. You were courageous to demand, to seek, to know and understand your history. You were right to seek other brothers and sisters who shared that same hunger and need to define ourselves as Filipino American, to find our place here in this country. You should feel proud of your experiences, even though you always didn't know exactly what you were doing or how that outcome would be. As long as you learned, reflected, and became better for it, I think that's what makes the difference. So feel proud of the work you all did working on Agbayani Village, because it is the symbol of our legacy and what can be accomplished when we unite as a community. Never forget that you will never get anywhere you want to go or make any meaningful difference without the acknowledgement, affirmation, and support of others, because it is a journey we must take together.